For those who are just discovering skincare or just hearing about it and learning about it, can you give a quick synopsis on what the film is about?
Yeah, skincare is about a esthetician in Hollywood whose life starts to unravel when another esthetician opens a competing skincare boutique across the way from her in the same complex.
Yeah, very interesting scenario here, and it's a very thrilling premise as it turns out. Really keeps audiences on the edge of their seat. Um, you know, I am super curious about you and your career leading up to this film because if I'm not mistaken, your career is more in music and music videos, and I'm interested in what got you into what attracted you to this project.
Well, my aspiration has always been to direct movies and tell narrative stories and expand into a longer form. I grew up admiring so many video directors and like so many of us, the directors label of Spike Jonze and Chris Cunningham and Michel Gondry. And, so I thought, oh, if I do that, then I'll be afforded the opportunity to direct a film. And then it turns out that that's not really how the business works anymore. And maybe never did, but that's kind of where I cut my teeth, was directing videos, and this was a project that the writers brought to me, and I just immediately gravitated to the atmosphere and the world that they had created and the sort of chaos that they had created in the script. And so we started working on it together when I was working on my feature documentary maybe 5 years ago, and and it's been, and now we're here.
It's interesting because you're talking about the expectations you had of the industry, and now that you've jumped into it and you've cut your teeth on music videos, and you realize the industry isn't quite what you expected. I'm curious about your expectations with making a narrative feature film, and whether that matched your expectations or was very different, or like how was that process for you?
It was simultaneously both. I knew that it was going to be sort of the hardest thing that I had ever done, and it certainly was. I didn't know when that was going to happen, like production was super hard, but also super joyous. And prep was super exciting, but also like really heavy, like just getting ready and all learning all the things that the movie can't be. Um, and then editing was something that I just like dramatically underestimated that process, because I had been in edits, and I had edited a feature doc, and I had edited documentary television series, and I had edited videos and commercials. And so I thought, oh, it's going to be like that but longer, and like that was not true at all. It was, the scale of it is so different. And fortunately, I worked with a really amazing editor, Laura Zempel, who I was able to lean on when we were doing this, and we got through it.
Very cool. Speaking about talent involved with the film, you have a stacked cast in this film. Yeah, I mean, you get to work with you have Elizabeth Banks in the leading role, Nathan Fillion, Louis Pullman, and Luis Gerardo Mendez, who I just had the pleasure of talking with. Just a lot of great talent a part of this cast. Tell me about working with this ensemble.
It was amazing. I think that we had to sort of bend over backwards with the scheduling to make everyone's schedules work for this, because everybody is so busy and shooting so many different things. So they really stepped in and brought it every day. And we shot Nathan out in 2 or 3 days. We shot Michaela J. Rodriguez out in 3 4 days. Like, it was crazy. But we just made it work. And Elizabeth, of course, is in every scene, working from morning to night every day. So it was amazing. It's kind of the thing that you hope for when you get this chance, is that you're just going to be surrounded by artists like this who are so talented that you're sitting at the monitor electrified, because you just can't believe what they're doing and what they're bringing to it, and how real it all feels.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to talk a little more specifically about working with Elizabeth because she is also a feature film director. And I know that Luis has worked with her before, and so I kind of want to know more about your interactions with Elizabeth and like how she influenced, how you approach making this film.
Elizabeth was, the movie was, it's her movie, she like, we built it around her because she was gonna, because we knew she was gonna bring it, and because that's the central character, and she was so supportive of me throughout the whole time and was always there. If I ever needed it, if I ever had a question for her, if I wanted to bounce anything off of her, she was always there. And she also was very much, you fear working with a lead actor who's also a massive director who's just coming off of a massive hit film of Cocaine Bear.
Mhm.
And, everyone was sort of like, oh, be careful, she's a big time director. And never once did she ever try to encroach upon me or anything. She always was always sort of empowered me to make the movie that I wanted to make, and she put an enormous amount of trust in me and gave it 120% before, during, and after, and for that will be eternally grateful to her. No questions.
That's incredible. Um, so I mentioned that we're going to come back to your history in music videos, and my question for you is, with this background in music and music video making, I had wondered how much of those music how much of that music background kind of slipped into this film. I couldn't help but notice Katy Perry playing in one of the scenes. There is a karaoke scene with Luis, which I got to talk with him about. I just want to know, like, did you kind of slip in some of your music sensibilities into this film?
Yeah, I think that those things are just a part of me, and they sort of end up, as much as I've told a few people today that there was a moment where I was thinking about doing this movie with no music and just having it all natural sound and whatever. And then I kind of realized that in Los Angeles, everywhere you go, and when you live in a city, cars drive by and you hear music, and then you go into a store and they're playing something on the radio, and it's completely the opposite feeling of what it is that you're feeling internally, and it like feels like this weird, funny, cruel juxtaposition, and so,
Right.
and it can be different, and then you go into a coffee shop and it's a totally different genre of music, and everywhere you go you're walking through all these different sounds. And so I really wanted to capture that feeling, and use music to help tell this story, basically.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It takes place in Los Angeles, and I think what you're talking about is so interesting with how you brought the music in, because there is a juxtaposition. It's a thriller, and a lot of the score is thriller. But like I said, you then get moments of Katy Perry, you get Grimes at the end, so there's some pop involved in there as well. But anyway, when it comes to the setting of Los Angeles, tell me what it was about this city that made you think this was the perfect place for this movie to take place.
Well, I grew up here, and I think that I always felt like it's always portrayed, not always, there's obviously a lot of canonical Los Angeles movies, but I feel very often it's portrayed as this very aspirational place, or this sort of place that's like a parody of itself or something, and both of those things can be true, but there's also the reality that it's just a very big sprawling American city that is filled with people. And I wanted to make a movie that captured that and felt like it was set in a real city, and with all kinds of different people sort of going about their individual lives and pressing up against each other in ways that are sometimes uncomfortable and even worse, and so I felt like this was a perfect setting where it's very big and filled with so many people, but it's also incredibly isolating and incredibly isolated. People are so isolated in their own lives. So for those reasons, it just felt like it couldn't be anywhere else.
Absolutely. Last question, and then I'll wrap it up here. But just really quickly, can you give me like your favorite on-set story, something that really stood out to you in the production of this movie?
My favorite on-set story. Geez. What is my favorite on-set story? I mean, my favorite on-set experiences were just getting to shoot these different scenes every day, and the end of the first week we shot everything that happens in Jordan's apartment, and that was such a wild day, with the stuff that we were shooting. And that was, there was a couple times in the process where everybody was sort of like, oh, this is the movie that we're making, and that was one of those meetings, those days where we shot Jordan alone in his apartment, and we shot um him and Elizabeth there. And that was a moment where it really felt like, okay, this is the movie we're making, we know what this is, and everybody got to be a part of it. And so that was really amazing.
Awesome. Austin, thank you so much for having this conversation with me. Congratulations on your film. I can't wait for more people to see it.
Yeah, thank you so much. Great to talk to you, Thomas.
You too.
See you later.